Hey, let's talk about, not to be duplicitous because of that earlier question, but let's talk about how we think is properly mixing salt water.
I think what you said is right. So you throw your salt mix and your salt and your fresh water together.
Well, so here's another thing that I want to see people do that I've seen, and we can't assume that the beefers watching the show, like what they know or don't know.
They know everything because they're beefers.
Smartest people in the world.
Okay, so what do you want?
When you're mixing salt water, what I want to see you do is get a container that has the ultimate amount of water that you're going to use. You wouldn't get a small amount of water, throw a bunch of salt in there and like kind of reconstitute it with more fresh water. You would have the amount of fresh water that you're going to use, put something in there to mix it quite violently. And by my opinion, I mean like almost you think it's going to fly out of the container.
You want to make it spin in your round container or whatever, and you want to see a vortex drop. You want that water to be flying.
Yeah, big time. And then and even another, so here's over the course of my career, I remember in the 90s, me and the place I worked at, we were setting up a tank. And I remember a well-meaning guy that I worked with, we just got done all day long putting this tank together, and he dumps a whole box of salt in the sump. I had gone to get some food and came back, and I just saw the sump filled with like salt. And I'm like, bro, what are you doing? And he was like, well, I put the salt in there and I figured it's just kind of dissolve into the tank. And I was like, it doesn't work like that, man. That's not the way to do that, to dump and make a heap. You don't want a heap of salt, like dissoluting, because again, I'm not Craig Bingman, but I think when you get these like uber high concentrations of salt in an area, that some of the ions might attach to each other in ways you didn't really want them to do, meaning some stuff might fall out of solution. You might end up having less alkalinity, less magnesium, less calcium because of doing it that way.
And it's easy enough to not do it that way.
Yeah, but you get people that just dump a boatload of salt at once. Don't do that.
Sometimes if I want to boost my salinity, I'll pour salt in the area of my sump that gets a lot of flow. So within 5 minutes, it's all gone.
And
also I'm only adding, 2 or 3 cups to a 400-gallon system. So, and it's got to mix the whole length of a 180-gallon tank before it gets anywhere. So So there.
Another thing is people that have containers in their garage where they're mixing it in the garage. So if you live, like say you live in Texas and you're mixing it up in August and the garage is hot, you just realize that I don't know the specific temperatures, but if you're mixing salt and hot water, again, you can have dissolution. You can have carbonates and calcium and magnesium fall out of solution from the water being too hot when you mix it.
Yeah. So, and also if it's too cold, it's going to take longer to mix up as well. And, the other thing you got to do is make sure that the water is the right temperature before you add it to your tank. Right.
I would say between 70 and 78. I actually go on the, if I can be choosy, I like 70 to 75 because it's also an exothermic reaction.
Yeah, but sometimes it's an issue for people to get the right temperature of the water.
Yeah, you don't have to get it perfect, but I'm just saying.
But I'm saying, make sure, another reason to not put the water in as soon as you mix it, because it's easier to make sure the temperature is correct. If you wait 24 hours and you've got your heater in there, it's going to be the right temperature.
Yeah. Well, that's another thing about why would we wait a long time to do that? It could be temperatures. Well, say I'm mixing salt water in my garage in December and I'm like, oh, I want to use this water in 30 minutes. Probably is not going to happen. The water's 50 degrees and I have a little 300 watt, Eheim heater in there. Like, come on, baby, warm up. And it's just going to stay cloudy and not have dissolved that well. And the water's like 55 degrees. Don't do that in that sort of situation. You could even, if you knew you were going to do a big water change, is, get that fresh water moving in your garage and bring it up to temperature, at least 70 degrees, 70 to 75 degrees. And, you know, it might be a day before, 2 days before. If you're wanting to mix it and use it within 10 minutes, like, you're going to have to get the temperature at least in the ballpark.